This is Chris again. And a few weeks ago, I created a video where I talked about the fact that nobody cares about leadership styles and that people are using leadership styles incorrectly. They're thinking too much about what the leadership style is: transformational, transactional, servant, blah, 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 blah. A lot of books have been sold talking about leadership styles, and I still contend nobody cares. Nobody gives a crap about what the leadership style is. I have never run into a person when they talked about their leader, someone they respected, someone they thought did a good job in being a leader. They never said they're a great transformational leader. They never said they're a great charismatic leader. They never described the leadership style at all. So what do they care about? They care about the things we're going to talk about today. And these are extremely simple concepts, some that a lot of people have overlooked. They don't think about these things, but these are the things that people care about when you talk about solid leaders. So let's get into it. In my practice, I talk about 20 different leadership competencies. These are skills that normal people have during the course of their lives. They're not anything specific to being a leader. There's nothing in a leadership class, a leadership degree, a leadership certificate that necessarily talks about these things. They will maybe describe someone that fits into a particular leadership style category and say, well, they do these things. But there's not a whole lot of emphasis on these things. That's why I say leadership styles don't matter. You do these things and people will think you're a good leader, because you will be, as long as you do these things with sincerity. The first one's integrity. Integrity is one of those things that, what does that even mean? And some people will say, well, I know it when I see it. It's basically doing the right thing when nobody is watching you. Are you the person that does the right thing? When you do the wrong thing, did you mean to do the wrong thing? Did you do the wrong thing with good intent? I'm a big time believer in actions mean more than what you say. But if I do something and I had legitimate reasons for doing it, were those legitimate reasons something I can stand up for? Another way I like to look at integrity is this something you would do in front of your mother? Is this something you can defend to your closest allies, your closest relationships, your spouse, your kids? Can you say to them, this is what I did and this is why I did it, and not be embarrassed and not have to make up some sort of story like you're some sort of fancy criminal defense attorney? If you can, then you have integrity. Related to integrity is accountability. This is something that unfortunately is not common among leadership positions in corporate America or any organization. There has been for a long time this culture where leaders should be considered infallible. Don't question your leader. Don't question your boss. Don't question your manager. Some of that's cultural. Some of it's not. But accountability is when you stand up and say, yeah, that was me. I'll take responsibility for it. Didn't work out, but that's on me. If you have that ability, then your people are going to immediately connect with you because they've messed up too. And they want to see people who mess up take accountability. They want to see people held accountable. So if you're a leader and you don't hold your people accountable, you don't hold the people that lead you accountable, you will lose credibility too. And that's sometimes a very difficult thing to do. Accountability is not just downstream. It's horizontally. It's up. You hold yourself accountable. You hold other people accountable. You hold the people above you accountable. Now, you don't have to be a jerk about it. You have to have the courage to stand up and say, that wasn't right. That's accountability. Vision is one of those things that some of the most endearing leaders have. The ability to see, where are we going down the road? What's the path we're taking? This is incredibly important to drive motivation within an organization. Sometimes leaders have to make decisions in the background, behind closed doors, with people that don't interact with the broader organization. And you have to be able to sell that idea. You have to be able to sometimes explain, why do we make this choice? People who have the talent to be visionaries, people who have the talent to be able to paint a picture of the path that the organization is on, that's vision. But you can't paint that picture if you can't see it yourself. So this is one of those qualities of leaders that is incredibly important. Do you see beyond the horizon? Are you able to see what the potential is in a person? Are you able to see what the potential is for an account, for a relationship? The pitfalls, are you able to see what the pitfalls might be. And there's other things we're going to talk about that when you see pitfalls, how do you deal with those things? That's having a vision. And when there are pitfalls, how do you deal with it? That's steadiness. Do you freak out? Do you lose your mind? Do you go from zero to spastic in a split second? Then you don't have this trait. And that trait is steadiness. Steadiness is an incredibly important thing for a leader to demonstrate because people will mirror how you handle something. If you're handling something with calmness and focus and reflection, the people around you will be calmer, more reflective, more thoughtful. If you're spazzing out, people around you are going to feel that it's okay to spaz out. And I've never known an organization that dealt with challenge well when the leadership is spazzing out or the team is spazzing out. Steadiness doesn't mean that you aren't internally freaking out. Steadiness is about managing that. And emotional intelligence is a big part of this. You can prep yourself for this. All of these things that we're talking about today are things you can manage and work on. So steadiness is one of them. Incredibly important. Compassion is one of those things that people demean a little bit. They think, oh my gosh, I don't want to hold people's hands and pat them on the back and babysit and worry about their emotions and all this stuff. Really? The reality of it is people expect you to be human. The people that describe really strong leaders overwhelmingly indicate that compassion is a trait that they need. Sometimes people are going through things and you have to be compassionate about it. You have to say, look, I get it. I understand. I've been there, done that. It helps you make decisions about adapting maybe if you need to. But if you aren't compassionate, you don't have the capacity to even adapt. You don't have the ability to relate to the people around you at a level that they need you to relate. And when you show compassion, again, this will build more credibility. This allows a tighter relationship to form between you and the people around you. When you need them to do something, they're more likely to step up and do it because you have shown compassion, because you've done these things we're talking about today. Now, related to compassion is passion. Don't be lame. Don't be well, we got to do this because, the board says we have to do it. Be passionate about it. Show some enthusiasm for the mission, for the people around you, for the customers, for the relationships, for the job. Be passionate about something. People will respond more. Again, they tend to respond to the level that you're demonstrating. I cannot stand in front of a classroom and expect students to be engaged with me if I'm not showing some passion. I cannot stand in front of the client and say, this is what you need to do if I don't demonstrate some passion for what I'm doing. People can smell fake passion. People know when you truly are passionate. And you might say, well, Chris, that's not something I can just turn on and off. Yes, you can. It's a matter of, number one, choosing to do the things you're passionate about. And if you're choosing to do things that you're not necessarily passionate about, find the thing that you're passionate about that is the reason you're doing the things that you're not. For example, in the nonprofit world, we have a lot of people that join boards because they're passionate about the mission. The problem is the mission is usually this much of what all the activities are. So if I'm working for a food pantry and one of their big events for the year, hosting a Thanksgiving dinner where I'm feeding the homeless, I'm feeding the poor. People love being a part of that because they get this instant gratification. There's immediate feedback. I can see the effects of my work. But very few people want to be the ones making the phone calls to get donations to support that mission. Very few people are passionate about writing a strategic plan for a nonprofit organization. Very few people are passionate about managing the finances of the nonprofit so that they can accomplish the mission. This is what I'm talking about. If you have to do something you're not passionate about, focus on the thing you are passionate about. That is the reason you're doing the thing you're not passionate about. That's passion, and people around you will see it. One of the worst traits that I run into is a lack of humility, arrogance. People who are all about themselves. These are the me people. Nobody wants to work for that person. Nobody wants to work for a me person. So humility is an incredibly important trait for leaders. Are you humble? Will you be self-deprecating? Will you give credit to other people, maybe even when you deserve more of the credit? This is one of those things. And people know, a lot of leaders know that they should be humble, so they say things that a humble person would say, but it's not sincere. And people see right through that. They can smell out a true lack of humility. They can smell out arrogance. They can smell out when people are saying the things that should be said, but they don't really mean it. Truly being humble requires practice. You have to catch yourself when you are giving yourself too much credit and maybe ignoring people who deserve some more credit. And just be calm. I mean, it's a demeanor that you have to work on. And it's not going to be handled in this video. We'll talk about these things a little bit more depth in separate videos. But this is one of those things where people who describe great leaders, they talk about their great leader as being humble. They do almost all the time. Communication, that should go without saying. The ability to communicate clearly, concisely is an incredibly important trait for leaders. If people don't understand what you need from them, if people don't understand what you're trying to say, if they don't understand how you're trying to create the vision that we talked about being visionary, but if you can't communicate that vision, it's going to be ineffective. Pretty much all of these things relate to communication. If you talk about being humble, how do you communicate that humility in such a way that it's believable and it's sincere? Communication is incredibly important. One of my triggers is disrespect. So respect is an important trait when we talk to people again about, hey, tell me about the best leaders you've had. Respect is almost always reported. More often than not, when we talk to people about their bad leaders, disrespect is mentioned. And you know disrespect when you see it, because you feel it. You feel like someone's belittling you. I often talk to managers and tell them this: you should never, ever have a conversation with someone, even someone who you are legitimately upset with. You should never have a conversation with someone where they walk away feeling worse about themselves than when you started talking to them. You're going to say, Chris, but what if this person needs to be scolded? They are poor performer. I've had to deal with them over and over again. Are they going to get better if you make them feel bad about themselves? People don't improve performance when you've belittled them. They don't. All they do is immediately hop on this thing and start looking for a job on places like Indeed.com. That's what they'll do. They'll temporarily maybe improve their performance, but if you're disrespecting someone, they're definitely going to be gone. Another thing that leaders need to focus on is consistency. And here's what that means. Do you treat every situation similarly or very, very similarly? If I have a new employee, do I deal with that new employee the same way as I dealt with every new employee? Do I deal with every disciplinary situation the same way as I would deal with every other disciplinary situation? Do I deal with rewards and encouragement the same way across the board to all these different people? The moment that I'm inconsistent, I lose credibility because people start to think that this person got more credit, this person got more discipline than someone else. And now it's like, well, they have favorites, and you lose that credibility as a leader. It's important to be consistent. Along those same lines is professionalism. Now, this shouldn't have to be discussed, but professionalism is about how do you carry yourself? What language do you use? Do you swear all the time, or do you use proper language in a work environment? And by the way, unfortunately or fortunately, people who are leaders need to be that same way no matter where they are. So be professional, even if you're out enjoying yourself, being social. Don't be the person who's going to have a TikTok video made about them because they're falling down drunk, leaving a bar someday, because it's not going to work if you say, oh, it's okay, I'm off the clock. People are going to judge you. They're going to remember that image. So be professional. This means the way you speak, the way you hold yourself, the posture, your eye contact, the tone of voice, the way you dress, the way you groom yourself. Yeah, those things matter. Well, Chris, we shouldn't be judging a book by its cover. Really? There are a lot of books I can judge by their cover. When I see the cover, I know exactly what's inside. And people will judge you by the way you hold yourself. Think of your brand. What's the brand you want to portray? Professional, calm, well-spoken, aware of the audience, aware of how they're coming across. Incredibly important. And sometimes people aren't professional because they're not self-aware. They don't even know. Maybe they don't care to know. Maybe they never thought about it, but they don't know how they come across. This is self-awareness. This isn't usually reported by people who say, my leader is very self-aware. That doesn't happen. That doesn't come up. But I include this on this list because none of these things get better without a leader being self-aware. You may watch this video and say, I got to think about these things. But unless you're focused on it, unless you're purposeful and you become self-aware of, I didn't act professionally this time, or I shouldn't have said that, or I should have dressed better, or, I should have handled this with more humility. That self-awareness is sort of the instigator for success for all of these different competencies. It takes time. This is the thing that takes the most amount of time, and it takes conscious effort. Now, Chris, this is too much work for me. Well, is it? Because I'll tell you, the people who work on this, the people who do this better, are going to outperform you. The people that do this, they improve these skills, they're going to be considered higher than you within the organization. The first step is improving your own self-awareness. Flexibility, that just goes without saying, deal with it. If don't be so sold on your own idea or a particular product or a particular choice, a particular path, show some flexibility. Along with that, be creative, or at least be open to being creative. Think of some things that aren't things that most people do. Again, people that talk about their favorite leaders, they're creative. They come up with unique solutions. Sometimes this is a challenge because if you're in an organization where the organization's mantra is, this is the way we've always done it. First of all, if you're ever in an organization where they say this is the way we've always done it, run like hell. Run like freaking hell. Because an organization that says this is the way we've always done it is going to get lapped by the people who do it better, or they find a better way. And by the way, there's always a better way. Well, Chris, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, in business, it's always broke. Something's always broke. This might be working very well until it stops. And all kinds of variables come into play where it could cause something that's worked to stop. The market might have shifted. Product designs have changed by the competitors. Market demand has changed. What do customers want? The availability of raw materials, the availability of people to work for you, the availability of resources changes. Everything's always broke in business all the time. Nothing is ever good enough to last in perpetuity. So when you tell me if it's not broke, don't fix it, be prepared to fix it because it will be broke soon. It will be. Either it's going to break on its own or someone's going to break it. So you need to be creative. And if you're not creative, find the people around you who are. Make sure you have people in your organization that are creative and that you can recognize and give the opportunity to be part of that team to offer solutions that you wouldn't have thought of. And that's going to lead me to my next one. Openness. Are you open to other people having those ideas? Are you open to feedback? Are you open to people saying, hey, we maybe shouldn't have done it this way. Maybe you should have said it differently. One of the greatest ways that I have learned to be able to develop openness is by asking questions. As a leader, you're expected to have answers. You're expected to be in front of the organization and say, here's my plan. Here's where we're going to go. Remember that vision? We're going this way. But to show openness, I love this question. What am I missing? This is my plan. This is what I think we should do. Here's how I think it's going to work. And you ask your team, what am I missing? What do you see that I don't see? What are the potholes in the road that I'm not seeing? Help me see some other things. Asking that question is a great first step. Receiving that information with humility and being open to it, that's the icing on the cake because you have to do that. As soon as someone sees that you not just ask the question, but accept the information, accept the feedback sincerely, your credibility as a leader has just gone up. That doesn't mean that you have to take everything and do what other people suggest, but you should be open to the data. You might have a legitimate thing. So think about this conversation. I want to do this. What do you see that I don't see? And someone says, well, Chris, what about this? What if this happens? Maybe you've thought about it and you can share, you know what? That's a good thought. Here's what I thought would happen if, and then you kind of back and forth. Now you are having a conversation, not with an employee, but as a partner. You have the final say. And when people see that you're open to that kind of information, you're open to that feedback, and you're sharing maybe a decision, sometimes you might say, that's really good. Hadn't thought about that. Man, I'm glad you mentioned it. Thank you for bringing it up. And you roll with it. When people see both, that you've accepted information and explain why that's either not relevant or it's not going to work, or you've accepted information and said, that's something we should pursue, people will give you a lot more credit as a leader. So openness is pretty key. Decisiveness is something that's expected too. Don't sit there and take forever to make a decision. Why? Well, I get that you want to be thoughtful and you want to process the data and you want to make sure you're making absolutely the perfect decision. I think you might have heard the expression, don't let the perfect get in the way of the good. People can take too much time, paralysis by analysis. You might have heard that expression. Be decisive. At some point, you're going to have to say, based on the feedback, based on our plans, this is what we're doing. Let's go. If the leader isn't capable of making a decision, they're not a leader. They're not a leader. Now, does that mean they don't take feedback? Yeah, but you have to do it with some passion, some sense of urgency, that decisiveness. This is what we're doing. Let's go. And when you are decisive, then other people around you become more decisive because they know Chris wants this. This is what we're doing. Here's my role in this. Oh, by the way, that goes back to communication. Did I communicate it well so that people do know what their roles are? Decisiveness is incredibly important. Another thing that doesn't come up, but I do include it in this list as well, is external awareness. Leaders who have a really good gauge of what's going on in the world tend to be more able to build relationships with their people, the people around them. That external awareness includes what's going on in the community, what's going on in the country. What are some of the concerns that are happening outside the walls of your organization? What are some of the concerns outside your department or your division within your organization? Are you just so myopic that you're only paying attention to the narrow part of the world that you exist in? This is dangerous for a leader because in order to make the decisions that allow you to be decisive, that external awareness broadens your data set that you have available. You want a large sample size, and the leaders that have a really good grasp of the external conditions out there tend to be the leaders that are more successful. Sometimes attitude is hard to control. I understand I'm human, and I am as impacted by things that affect my attitude all the time, but it's something we have to be aware of. Now, attitude doesn't just mean bad attitude. A lot of times we hear the word attitude, we're thinking negatively. We superimpose the word bad in front of attitude. If I say, we need to work on your attitude, that could be bad. Well, maybe not. I mean, maybe, and maybe you're thinking about these, where everything's good, everything's wonderful, everything's good. They're just happy, 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 happy. Those people have as much problem with being credible as people that everything's bad, 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 and I'm pissed off all the time. How realistic is it to be happy all the time? How realistic is it to be pissed off all the time? There's always a blend, right? People who have an attitude problem don't get approached, don't get creative ideas shared with them, don't get the feedback. Even if you ask for the feedback, hey, this is my plan, what am I missing? And if you have a bad attitude about it, or people are used to you having a bad attitude, they're not going to give you that feedback. So in order for some of these other things to work, you need to check your attitude right away. Again, it goes back to being self-aware. Confidence is often related to attitude, and it's important to be confident, but not cocky. Confidence is something where you have belief in what you're suggesting, that passion that we talked about. Confidence can come from experience. Confidence can come from knowing that you've got a great, solid team around you. Confidence can come from the fact that, look, if I'm not confident, then I know we're not going to win. Sometimes you just got to be confident in order to have a shot. If you're not confident, your shot is reduced. So confidence is incredibly important. By the way, something that you could look at is that the people with the worst attitude in your organization probably have the least amount of confidence. The people who are the bullies in your organization, I guarantee they have the least amount of confidence. They try to overcompensate by acting out and demanding and being just a general jerk. General jerks generally have very low confidence. The most confident people in your organization are the ones that have no problem being humble. I know a lot of military people, been friends with a lot of them, and a thing that I'm constantly told is the members of the military that are high speed, low drag, meaning they are high performers, Delta Force, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, fighter pilots, all these jobs that we would consider high performance necessary, tip of the spear types, those aren't the people that talk about it. The ones in the military units that talk the most about how great they are, guarantee you they're the ones that probably need a sock party. Some of you know what that is, and some of you need to look it up on Google. So be careful about that confidence. Make sure it's really confidence. And then finally, we're going to talk about empathy. Empathy is when you have the ability to kind of put yourself in someone else's shoes. It goes to that external awareness. It goes to how do you develop relationships with people? Maybe someone's going through something you've never gone through. Put yourself in their shoes. Can you feel the way that they might feel? And you say, Chris, gosh darn it, this sounds like psychobabble mumbo jumbo again. I'm a business person, or I'm a leader of an organization. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. You kind of have to be. If you're leading an organization, so much of what makes effective leaders inside an organization is psychology. How do you understand people? How do you motivate people? How do you connect with people? And empathy is one of those areas. You may only have one or two chances in a lifetime with this person to demonstrate empathy. Maybe you never do have to demonstrate empathy. Maybe no one comes up to you with a need for you to show empathy. But I guarantee you, if you have an opportunity, if there's a situation where you should be empathetic and you fall down and you're not, that person won't forget it. That person, when they're evaluating you in their mind to their friends on a 360 evaluation that you might be doing, that's the instance that's going to come to mind. They're going to think of that moment that you could have been empathetic and you weren't. So these are 20 leadership competencies that I believe supersede anything else. Again, leadership styles don't matter. These are the things that matter. These are the things that people talk about. These are the things that people think of when they think of their good or their bad leaders. Now, as a plug to my business, if you're interested in this, we do a wonderful 360 evaluation. This is not something you do on yourself. You'll do it on yourself, but not by yourself. This is something where you evaluate yourself and then you have your team evaluate. You get a really good picture and you can see how well do you perform with these competencies. Not only that, it also takes into consideration how important each of these competencies are to your particular role. So as your role changes, some of these competencies are going to be more or less important, and we provide you what your training priorities should be. So look at the website below. It's hlmc.us/LCAT, LCAT, Leadership Competency Assessment Tool. And you can look at this a little bit more and see if you'd like to participate and your company would like to participate. So I'd be happy to help you. But even if you're not going to do that, think about these things. By the way, as an added bonus, AI can't do these. AI can't do these. So for leaders who want to be leaders in the age of AI, when I'm thinking of people that I want to have in my organization, despite the fact that some of their skills could be replaced by AI, these are the skills that cannot. AI can't be passionate. AI can't show humility. AI can't be visionary. You can. All right, let's go.